Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. We are here today with some industry experts to talk about how to maximize efficiency with QuickBooks Online automation. So we're very excited to get into some tips and tricks to help you on your automation journey. So we will dive in. First, we'll go through some quick intros. So my name is Kaitlin Wright. I am your host today. I'm the Director of Marketing at Method CRM, and I will pass it over to Atiba.
Thank you so much, Kaitlin. Thank you, everybody, for joining in this busy time for you. So my name is Atiba Lewis. I'm with Intuit, going on my 8th year at Intuit, and recently moved into the role of Principal Industry Solution Strategist. So I'm very excited to be working closely with our app ecosystem, with people like Kaitlin and Scott and Melissa today. And so very happy to be here. On to you, Scott.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you. My name is Scott Parker. I'm Director of Product Marketing at Rewind, and supporting me here today is Melissa. She's our Senior Brand Manager. I spend a lot of time in the Intuit and QuickBooks communities. I've spoken to a ton of amazing people there and influencers, and attended some really interesting trade shows. Really looking forward to getting to know all of you at the next one.
Amazing. Thank you. Okay, we're going to kick things off with a quick poll to start. There we go. Looking to see what aspect of today's webinar you're most interested in. Increasing efficiency tips, streamlining processes, exploring customized automation solutions, or discovering the QuickBooks ecosystem. We'll take a quick minute, get your votes in, and then we can see what the results are. Okay, I'm going to close that poll. You can see the results here. So 37% into streamlining processes and 28% to increasing efficiency tips. All right, well, I'm sure we will dive into that. So to start things off, we're going to start with the question, what are inefficiencies and pain points that hinder small business growth today that automation could help to solve? Scott, do you want to kick this one off?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, speaking to many of our customers, it's very common to hear, especially from the backup perspective, which is what Rewind offers. Recovering from things like simple mistakes can be a massive time sink. So, for example, if data is accidentally adjusted, a customer logs into a system and maybe makes some changes, that can take a lot of time to roll that information back. So there's often hours of time wasted, money lost, simply just trying to get those one or two little things fixed, or find the one or two things that are wrong and kind of roll it back. So recovering from simple mistakes is probably one of the biggest issues we see, and it's rarely something that someone did intentionally. It's rarely data that's gone wrong. It's almost always just the wrong click of a button or an accidental deletion of a file, and that small act can create hours of pain, unfortunately. So
true. Atiba, can you top up at all on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree. With Scott's points, those are things that we hear consistently. At Intuit, when I've had conversations with both accountants and small businesses, what's important to small businesses seems to always fall into these 5 categories, right? Allowing them to get customers, how they get paid, paying and managing their workers, getting their own work done. And at the same time, they're doing all that, looking to be compliant and organized, all right? And so that's at the higher level. When we get down to a more granular level, we find that manual data entry is one of the top automation tasks, right? In terms of automating that really helps remove the need for that manual data entry, which not only saves time for them, but it really reduces the risk of human errors. Another area that we see a lot of opportunity for automation, is inefficient financial management, right? So small businesses often struggle with invoicing, expense tracking, and bookkeeping. So automation tools like QuickBooks Online and our partner ecosystem can really streamline those tasks and provide real-time insights for those businesses to allow them to scale, which is often another challenging factor for them.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I'll follow up a little bit on that. So, I mentioned earlier that simple mistakes tend to cause a lot of problems. From a Rewind perspective, obviously, we're offering backups for QuickBooks Online. And, I don't know how many folks I've run into that have said, weeks ago, before we ran into Rewind, made a simple mistake. It cost me 3 days of time to try and find it, recover it, fix it, etc. But with Rewind or a backup solution like it integrated into QuickBooks Online, you can simply click undo essentially. So in seconds, you can find the piece of data that's missing. In another few seconds, you can recover it. It puts it back in without affecting any of the other data. So something that could have taken hours or days now takes minutes. So tools like that can make such a big difference in your day-to-day.
Yeah, it's not just the actual data entry. It's if you can sync that or have it automatically kind of syncing or updating, it takes away that room for error as well, which is amazing.
Absolutely. And those tools are out there. It's just
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people just don't know they exist.
Yeah. All right. So before we get into some of those tips and tricks, we're going to do, how can businesses streamline processes and enhance efficiency in QuickBooks Online?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want me to take a crack at that one?
Sure. Then we can pass it back to Atiba.
Go ahead, Scott.
Absolutely, yeah. Reading too far ahead. Yeah, for sure. I've had a couple of really interesting things told to me by the QuickBooks community about enhancing efficiency using Rewind in collaboration with QuickBooks. Because you can create a perfect backup of your QuickBooks Online customer files, you're able to do things like restore environments very quickly. So some really innovative ways of using backup that I've seen are people will make a test environment and they'll have someone come in, maybe a new hire or a new onboard, and they'll run them through a scenario based in a QuickBooks file that they've created, have them go through the process of working with that file, and then when they're ready for the next candidate, simply reset it with backup. So they'll simply restore that environment back to basically their original position, saving tons of time and providing a pretty interesting way to test people. Also, there are things like in the past where you may want to keep a copy of your QuickBooks files. Obviously, redundancy for up to 7 years can be important. And the way that used to be done was dropping things to like a USB key, for example. That took time. Then storing that USB key, putting it somewhere safe is often difficult to achieve. Whereas now you can do it with an automated program. We can have a system that will every day back up all of your information to cloud storage that you don't need to worry about, don't need to maintain, don't need to take home with you at the end of the day. It just simply happens. You don't need to configure anything. So even all of that is saved as far as time savings are concerned. And there's advantages to that. You're now saving to a new destination, which is outside of the place it was originally created. So you're leaving the QuickBooks space and putting it into a cloud space. That sort of work, if you were doing it manually, might require you to take it home and put it on another drive, or add it to a new computer, or simply try to version things with USB keys, which can be very difficult. So it does alleviate a lot of that stress as well.
Yeah. Atiba, how do you see that businesses can help to streamline within QuickBooks?
Well, when I look at it from the perspective of QuickBooks Online, we do have 5 different versions of QuickBooks Online out there, right? So no matter what type or size of business you are, there are certain things that can help streamline your processes. So for example, if you are an accounting firm out there and you're only focused on year-end work, right? We have a light version called Ledgers that we just launched that allow you to leverage things like groupings in our banking transactions, the machine learning, so that when you are categorizing customers' banking transactions, if you've categorized that 1 year and you now come in the next year and upload, a year's worth of banking transactions, those are automatically remembered, right? And so we will automatically apply the right settings for you, right? As Intuit continues to invest in artificial intelligence, you're going to see how that translates to more efficiencies in product. Now, on the higher end of our products like QuickBooks Online Advanced, we have some really amazing automation tools in there that will help you do things like invoice approvals or bill approvals or purchase order approvals built right into product. So these automations are things going to help you achieve those compliance factors that you're looking for and achieve those everyday efficiencies that you're looking for as well, right? So really depending on what those processes are. Another aspect of enhancing efficiencies with QuickBooks Online is looking to our app ecosystem, right? And looking into, exactly what Scott mentioned on that side of, well, how can you help protect against that, human error factor that can happen, right? How do we look to method to help our customers drive better customer relation management, right? And so all those things are factors to consider when we're looking at how to improve those efficiencies in QuickBooks Online and really streamline those processes. Back to you, Kaitlin.
Thank you. All right. Before we get into some of those specific tips and tricks, I'm going to do one last poll for the audience to see everyone's level of familiarity with automation solutions today and if they're currently using them. So I'll leave this up for a minute for the group to vote on.
And while people are voting,
yeah.
I'll throw out something else that has come up with a lot of our customer base, which is as you start to look at these additional apps, you know, that you're going to plug into the QuickBooks ecosystem, it can be very beneficial to look at apps that have other purposes. So, for example, Rewind backs up multitudes of SaaS applications. So ideally, when you're finding a solution, you're finding a solution that can solve 3 problems for you and not just one. So I've definitely heard that that seems to be the case for Rewind, and Method may experience that as well.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. From an integration perspective, expanding that online ecosystem helps to the seamless data sync 100%, but it also helps to give you more capabilities than you may not have had. So helping you automate other areas of your business. In Method's case, could be the lead to cash, but whether that's that or inventory management or whatever it is to really just expand your capabilities within that ecosystem. All right, our results from the poll are here, and 42% are not familiar with automation solutions. So very excited to dive into some of these opportunities. I will hide this and move on to the next question. What are some of the top workflow automation features that QuickBooks users should take advantage of? Atiba, I'll look to you first on this one.
Yeah, sure. So let me think about that for a sec. So when we look at what are the top automatic workflows, I think one of the questions often I ask customers, and I like to do, is to really understand what their current processes are, right? If they have a current process, you know, our teams have done a lot of work with what we call internal follow me homes, right? Where we'll actually, you know, go to a customer, sit down with them, and really just observe what are all their business processes from A to Z, right? Anything that could be, you know, how they are processing invoices and bills. Are they doing paperwork flows? Are they digitizing? And with that gives us a better understanding, and it really helps us position the right level of QuickBooks Online and the right feature set in there. I think, you know, one of the easiest ones I mentioned before is banking transactions and how you do that, right? Making sure that QuickBooks Online is not only connected to that bank feed, but that you're leveraging things like rules, right? So that if you categorize, or for example, if you buy something at Staples all the time and you know that is going to be office supplies, you can simply create a rule that says every time you see Staples in there, it's going to categorize it as office supplies. And those rules can actually be exported and imported to multiple QBOs. So if you're an accounting firm and you have, you know, a group of customers within a similar vertical market, you can simply reproduce those banking rules across multiple customers. Okay, so that's one thing really interesting to take advantage of. You know, Scott was talking a little bit about, you know, employee onboarding and new employees. Depending on the level of QuickBooks Online you have, you know, we can get very granular in terms of roles and permissions. So making sure that the employees you want have only the access that you want them to have is another part that will help later on when it comes to automating these workflows, right? So I think, you know, banking transactions, understanding what those manual processes are very top of mind. Another section of QuickBooks Online that I think everybody needs to take advantage of is our receipt capture, right? We have a free mobile app available on all these versions of QuickBooks Online, and it allows you simply to take your smartphone, snap a picture of a receipt, and leverage technology in terms of optical character recognition, that will automatically read the text off of that receipt, import it into QuickBooks Online, and save you time and money, right? So as we talk about removing manual data entry, this is an easy entry point. And believe it or not, a lot of customers are still not doing this today. I remember not too long ago, I used to do my expense reports, and if I had a gas receipt sitting in my pocket for a few months, it was illegible, right? Actually, not even a few months, we're talking a few days, right? And so I think these are some of the key areas where we can help customers understand what those automation tools are and also get started in leveraging them.
Amazing. Scott, yeah, any features that you can speak to?
Yeah, for sure. I think I have a few of those illegible receipts around here. Illegible, rather. Yeah, I've definitely run into that problem. I think, oh, geez, all the accountants in our audience today are going to cringe at how I do my bookkeeping. It's a lot of those receipts, and trying to decipher what this one letter was that faded out 6 months ago. And I also love that you raised access and security and user management. Obviously, that's near and dear to Rewind's heart as a backup and security company. There are times when no matter how great automation is and how much effort you put into it, something gets through. And I think, the contribution I would have to this is that, if automation doesn't avoid the problems, a really solid backup solution that can bring it back in a couple of seconds is 100% your best friend. And I think that's like one of the core advantages that our customers find is that, occasionally something gets through, something happens, and the ability to bring it back in seconds is a really nice complement to strong automation.
Amazing, yeah.
If I could just want to add one other thing on the topic of automation, and it just really popped in my head because, when I meet with businesses across the country, they often talk to me about the tools that they're currently using. And there's one tool that is, I would say, consistent in almost every conversation that I have, and that is probably Excel, right? Everybody's working with Excel, and when I ask them, well, what are you doing in Excel? Right? And they're like, well, we're analyzing data. We're trying to make sense of this data, right? Or we want to manipulate large amounts of data. So with our most recent version of QuickBooks Online Advanced in Canada, we've actually built in a connector to Microsoft Excel, right? We call it spreadsheet sync. And so this gives you this real-time sync that allows customers continue working in the platform that they feel comfortable in, right? So if they need to say, hey, I want to modify my list of 1,000 products and services and maybe do a pricing update, well, they can do all that work in Microsoft Excel and just hit one button, and it will sync that data into QuickBooks Online, okay? And the same thing goes in reverse. If they want to analyze their P&L or their balance sheet, or they want to pull some specific data points, but they want to apply their own formulas to it, we allow them to pull those reports directly into Excel from the raw data in QuickBooks, and now in a second sheet, they can apply any formulas they want, right? So one of the things that come to mind is if you need to calculate commissions for your employees, right? You can have that data captured in QuickBooks Online, apply the formulas you want in Excel, and have that automation from end to end.
It's a great added feature, letting everyone stay in kind of the environments they know and love already, and then just expanding that and making it faster. I love it. Going forward, what role do app integrations have in the QuickBooks automations? Scott, as an app that integrates Rewind with QuickBooks, I'd love to have your perspective on this one.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I mean, the Intuit products, the QuickBooks products, they're fantastic. They do a lot of amazing things, but it doesn't make sense for every company to be an expert in everything. So app integrations really fill the void of other core competencies that engineering really shouldn't be putting its time into. So for example, a capability that wouldn't make sense to be a focus for most companies is hardened backup. The ability to automate your day-to-day backups and do that full restore, because that is a very complex process. And we're talking about needing deep expertise in data security, data transport, long-term storage management, incremental versioning. There's a whole host of things. So it really makes sense for a third-party application to be able to kind of take that role on and do its own amazing job in its own space. And I think that's really where the synergy happens between applications like QuickBooks and Rewind, where we can provide extremely strong backup and recovery, and QuickBooks can take ownership of its entire side of its expertise.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think similar to what Atiba was saying earlier, being able to stay in the environments that you know, you love, by being able to integrate with other softwares to kind of fill some of those core competency gaps, it allows you to stay with QuickBooks. You don't have to upgrade to, not upgrade, but get a much more expensive ERP, for example. You can stay with that QuickBooks that your team already knows how to use. You don't have to worry about that huge investment or change management, but you can still extend that capabilities by getting other softwares, whether it is like Method to track your sales opportunities, or manage payments, or send digital proposals and get e-signatures on them, and kind of automate all of those pieces to really extend those capabilities, syncing it all back to QuickBooks at the end. So really interesting role that integrations can play to expanding your automation capabilities.
I love, Kaitlin, you just mentioned something key there, and you mentioned that jump to an ERP type platform.
Yeah.
And QuickBooks has been focused a lot on this mid-market, more complex small business, who many of them have actually made a jump to an ERP system and found that it's an incredible investment on their end, and way overkill, right? Yeah. And others are looking to say, how can we mitigate this gap? And the core of that is really when you look at something like QuickBooks Online Advanced, plus this app stack that we have right here in front of us with Method and Rewind, really allows that customer to extend their life into that space that there's currently this gap, right? And I think for us, that's where we see the key role of app integrations and how they help our customers, achieve their business objectives. And even, I would say, compared to some ERP systems, deliver you a better experience, because now you're really focused on an app partner that their core focus is what they do. For example, Rewind, right? You're talking to a customer, an app partner who's really focused on that. It allows QuickBooks to really focus on that financial management piece, and it allows Method to focus on that customer relationship piece, right? So all those components together is really what we look to propose to our customers when they're looking for these more complex environments.
Yeah, and tying it back to automation, like, yes, QuickBooks has an export option. You can export pieces of what you need. It's just time consuming. It just takes a lot of time and effort to get it the way you would want it. And instead, there is an opportunity to do it in seconds. And that's really where the apps come in.
Yeah, there's so many things, manual things that you think just take 5 seconds here or there, but no, they add up. And if all of that is automated, right, it just frees up so much of your team's time to focus on the growth or the things that matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so for our audience here who mostly weren't super familiar with automation tools and were looking to learn more, any lessons learned or tips that you can share when it comes to workflow automation and creating that connected tech stack? I'll look to Scott first on this one. Oh, or Atiba, sorry.
No, gives me more time to think.
No, Atiba, go for it.
All right, back on the spotlight. So I think that with implementing any workflow automation or any change in business process, I don't think I can understate the importance of some sort of structured change management plan, right? Yeah. How are you going to effectuate this change? If you're looking to automate a process, and it goes back to the classic example of these receipts, right? I've talked to so many people, and it's a process for them. They're accustomed to taking this piece of paper, filing it away, and sending it off to their accountant at the end of the year, right? So just to get people to change that process, have a plan in place, have some sort of incentive for them to feel good about that, have a great story to tell about that process. I think that really helps the people side of implementing some of these workflow automations, right? Another tip I would say is keep it simple to start, right? There's no need to really complicate things in the beginning, right? When we talked about QuickBooks Online and our banking automations, hey, start by just connecting the bank and letting those transactions come in, right? You don't need to start by having, complex rule structures that are going to split your transactions into different accounts. Start with the basics, right? Get accustomed to that workflow, and then keep on looking to see how you can keep improving that process. That's one of the tips I would have to share when it comes to workflow automation.
Yeah, those are great. I'll follow up with two of my own. And I touched on this earlier, but choose tools that offer more than simply one part of the solution. There's lots of kind of niche tools out there built by everyone from people in their garage all the way up to big enterprise companies. But some of them do one thing and do it in varying degrees of well. But there are a lot of tools out there that try to be more. And they, maybe it does backup, but it also does the ability to stage new environments, or it does the ability to granularly restore things, like bring back one or two items and not impact the rest of your data like Rewind does. Looking for something that can help you with more than one problem is always a good plan, because those tools are out there. And then I would say probably choose a partner that's tightly integrated to the ecosystem in which you live. So living in the Intuit QuickBooks world, you want a partner, I think I would like to say Atiba, like Rewind, where we have a pretty tight connection with the Intuit folks. We talk all the time. We share back and forth on what we're working on and what our next initiatives are. That helps your tools, like connected apps, understand how will things change? What will QuickBooks be changing as far as how its data is handled, so that our tool can change at the same time. What you don't want is a tool you rely on outside of your ecosystem to suddenly be out of sync and now not be performing the task in which it was there for, especially something like backup, where now maybe your backups aren't running, which can be, usually that's when something terrible happens. So that's really not the thing you want.
Yeah, Scott, I think, you really hit the nail on the head there with the resources, the support that's available in place in the partnership. In my current role now at Intuit, a large portion of what I'm going to be doing is working with our third-party apps to figure, hey, what's the best app stack here for these vertical markets? And I can share with you all that top of mind to me comes with, like, not only the ability of the technology or the platform to perform its task, but the support structure that's in place and the relationships that are there and how they are able to support their customers. So that's a key decision maker when I look at, who we should be partnering with and what that partnership looks like.
Yeah, and I'll add one. You reminded me of one more thing that you mentioned, I think, a week ago, which is, MailChimp is now part of the Intuit ecosystem as well. So there's another good example of, like, you're within an ecosystem and you're providing a second thing. So as an accounting firm or accountant looking to get my name out there, get more business, marketing would be probably next in line for my priorities. And there's already a tool within the ecosystem that can come right in and do it for you. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll top up with one more as well. As we look to find other softwares and stuff to help our own business, and as well as look for small businesses, we often look for one with flexibility. So I know as your businesses are growing, you're going to have unique processes. They might not be the same as everyone else. We see it at least within CRMs that some of those out-of-the-box solutions won't work for everyone. So looking for softwares that have some sort of flexibility that you can customize to match your own needs and help really automate your specific processes. Method is completely customizable. You can change whatever processes you can work. We can work with you to do that as well, so that you're really selecting solutions that not just work for you today, but as you grow, as your processes change, as you scale, it'll work for you tomorrow as well, so that you don't have to worry about doing the change management and looking for a new software in 5 years once you've doubled in size.
Yeah, it's so important.
Yeah, really like that aspect of scalability, Kaitlin. So important.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, that's what you want to do, is change midstream to a new product.
100%. Okay, so what tips do you have for QuickBooks users who are just starting on this journey, as it can seem a little bit intimidating trying to find these new softwares and connect them all together?
Oh, I think, if you don't mind, I'll jump in there on this one. First of all, if you're not on the cloud yet, get to the cloud. Right, that would be my number one tip, because that's the space where you're going to be able to leverage these automation journeys and connections into the ecosystem, right? So step number one, get onto the cloud. If you need help getting there, you could reach out to Intuit. We have people that will get your data from existing desktop platforms and migrate that over into the cloud. Okay, so that would be, my tip number one for getting started. And if you are an accountant user with us today and you're already on QuickBooks Online accountant portal, make sure you're leveraging some of the trainings that we have there. We have a ton of trainings on how to get set up, how to understand some of the more advanced functionalities. We have trainings on QuickBooks Online Advanced where a lot of these automations are.
Yeah, that all makes sense. I would have, actually, I'll follow up to one of the things you just said, which is the hesitancy on some people's part to move to the cloud. I totally get it. Almost everyone has gone through that kind of thought process of like, is this where I want to go? Usually it comes down to some level of security. Is my stuff secure in the cloud? Can I trust the cloud? The answer is yes. Everything's moving to the cloud. It's pretty robust at this point, but that's where I think backup can play like a strong role. Having a strong backup tool adds that level of security that maybe you used to have with a USB key or external drive. Now you can have it in the cloud, and it's in fact easier. It's a fully automated. It'll just take care of itself. Yeah. The other thing I would say is from backup perspective, start day one. Start backups on day one, because I don't know how many customers I can tell you didn't do that. And that's when they end up coming to Rewind, and the story is never a positive one, and that always it always hurts. It's inexpensive. You never know when something can happen. And I'm going to tell a very short story about my dog Ripley here, because it just has to happen. So I got a new puppy 2 and a bit years ago. She's very cute. However, as soon as I got the puppy, the vet said, hey, here's the deal. Puppies eat everything, so make sure you get pet insurance. And I said, yeah, sure. Okay, got it. Whatever. Took the pamphlet, went home. 6 months free pet care. Yeah, I'll fill it out tomorrow. So the next day I paid $4,000 to remove a small plastic penguin that dog ate the same night. We still have a picture of it. It's lovely. The vet knows us as the penguin dog. You never know. And it's always when you don't spend that extra couple of bucks to solve the problem that it sneaks up on you and it hits you. She's still a lovely puppy, but I don't know, could have bought 12 puppies for that cost. And I guess the last thing I would say is it can be a competitive edge for your company. So, a lot of firms don't necessarily offer the ability to roll back data that quickly. You don't want to have that conversation with a customer when they have logged in and made a mistake and caused problems that now you have to roll back and charge for. And you certainly don't want to eat the cost of hours of labor. That's never a great conversation. I hear, unfortunately, about that one a lot. Having a backup solution in place will completely solve that and keep the trust of your customer and save your time, energy, and generally speaking, put you in a better place.
Love that.
Scott, you mentioned that external USB drive, right? And I can tell you guys a story of I had, many years ago, one of these external USB drives, and I guess it had a proprietary connector on it, right? And that little, it's like a little 3-inch cable. And eventually, years later, that cable failed, and it was like I had to like duct tape it in a certain position just to get it working. And so, thankfully, I was able to take the data on that drive, back it up to the cloud, and now I never have to worry, right? I don't have to worry about that. And physical local storage, if you don't have the resources to maintain that, it will fail eventually on you, right? And so that move to the cloud again is just so important to start us off on that journey of automation.
And weirdly enough, I know exactly the drive you're talking about. I had this same problem too.
Yeah.
Oh boy. The only other thing I would add to this one is when you're starting your automation journey, it can be intimidating. Where do you start? I would say just kind of go through your end-to-end workflows, or your, from talking to your customer to what whether you're paving a driveway or doing their roofing, whatever your small business is, go through those workflows and just identify what are those key bottlenecks that are slowing you down, or what are your key bottlenecks that your frontline staff is saying is super frustrating and they don't want to do this anymore. Then, can you do that within QuickBooks? Can you automate that within QuickBooks? And if not, what are those tools that can help you to do that? So kind of breaking it down into the biggest things holding you back that will save you the most time. So how can these integrations and tools make your life easier? We spoke to this a little bit, but Scott, can you dive in a little bit further here?
Yeah, and I touched on some of these, so I'll be
Yeah.
brief on these, but many SaaS products offer the option to script or export data. That's a lot of manual work. And imagine trying to go through 30, 90, 180 days of data to figure out which version you want to pull back and figure out where that mistake was made. It's a lot of work. Having a tool that you can simply just search for the transaction, pops it up, browse through various versions of that transaction, go, yep, that's the one I want, restore, and just have it magically appear on the other side is magic. It's fantastic to have, saves a ton of time. Trying to do it manually requires a lot of attention, a lot of diligence on your part, and even so often still goes wrong, unfortunately. Rewind just eliminates that challenge.
Amazing. Yeah, I would say past that, like just having everything online connected in one place with the data syncing back and forth, moving to the cloud, that's going to save you so much time just right there from the double data entry. And then having those other tools, as I spoke to earlier, to help automate other aspects that may fall outside of QuickBooks. So whether that's more advanced inventory management or data backup like Rewind or a CRM, it can just really automate all of those processes and save you time to focus on the things that matter. Okay. Any final kind of thoughts or anything before we close up here? No?
Only in that, accounting customers that I run into today typically are very focused on like accounting, and which is good, but they haven't gone down that path of thinking about these other solutions. Like, let's say I want a more advanced CRM, and I want to be able to do a better, more efficient job of maintaining my customer base, my outreach, all of those things. And there are tools out there, or pieces of it built into QuickBooks, but they're never going to get you to that level that you probably want to, because again, as we mentioned, that's not the focus. And I think there's just so much opportunity to save time, money, and just headaches that most people are just not aware of, unfortunately. So hopefully we've been able to enlighten people a little bit today.
I hope so. Thank you for putting that so eloquently. Okay, Atiba, can you speak to us a little bit about QuickBooks overall and some of the things that, the key features and stuff that can help our audience automate their processes?
Yeah, absolutely. And, like I mentioned before in the beginning, there's 5 different versions out there of QuickBooks Online that you can subscribe to, right? Starting with those year-end customers. If you're an accountant, we have an exclusive package that's available just for accountants and bookkeepers called our Ledger SKU. And although it's a base version, you can still leverage in there these automated rules, banking transactions, rules, categorizations, the machine learning on that end, right? As you scale up with different, and also, you can still integrate that with third-party applications, right? So if you're using something that's automating your data in, that will still work, right? Using advanced reporting functionality. So I talked to you a little bit about spreadsheet sync, right? Which is that bridge between QuickBooks and Microsoft Excel. So if you find yourself hopping between the 2 platforms and still doing some of this mundane work in Excel, take a look and try and find out, are there ways that you can automate that with QuickBooks Online Advanced, right? When I talk about workflow automations for approvals, we can also not only do approvals in advance, but we can do things like reminders, notifications, tasks. So if you have a sales team out there who struggles with keeping up to date on open estimates, you can create automated workflows that will say, hey, this estimate's been open this many days. I want you to make sure you send this note to their sales manager so they can follow up on these specific estimates, right? If you are a nonprofit organization and you want to make sure that a bill that's over a certain amount of dollars gets approved, we can do that. We can even do multi-level approval workflows so that I can say, hey, if that purchase order is between $1,000 and $5,000, I would like Scott to be the approver on it. But if it's between $5,000 and $10,000, well, Melissa is going to have to sign up on that one too, right? And so we can do these different levels of workflow automation. So I encourage you to visit, there's a link out there, QuickBooks.ca Advanced. If you go to that link, there are some there are some resource materials there for you. And you can also request a call back. So if you need to reach out to a representative at Intuit to get more information on that, I encourage you to do so. And maybe just the last thing, I mentioned for those of you who are already on QuickBooks Online as an accountant, right? And you don't know who your account manager is at Intuit, through your portal, you can click on Pro Advisor, and in the top right, you'll see exactly who your account manager is. Reach out to them and say, hey, you know what? You'd like to learn more about automation. You'd like more training. You'd like to get up to speed. We have a team that's bilingual across the country that can help you get started on that journey.
Amazing, thank you. From method side of things, we are a customer relationship management software that helps with everything from the lead to cash cycle end to end. So whether that's opportunity tracking to sending digital estimates and proposals to getting e-signatures on them, all the way through to giving customer portals for your customers to actually pay you on doing the payment processing. So we can help you every step of the way there and then sync all of that back to QuickBooks. What's also really unique about Method is what I mentioned earlier, how flexible and customizable it is. So we can tailor it to your unique workflows, whatever that is. We have a team on hand to help with all of those customizations. So would highly recommend you sign up for a trial if you think any of this could help some of your processes. We do have our team on hand for anyone who starts a trial to offer a free customization hour as well, to show you really what we can do with this product and how we can help to automate some of your processes and the bottlenecks and pain points that you're facing. So hopefully that will help some of you to get started on this automation journey. And Scott.
Here we are. So Rewind, I think I've covered this pretty clearly. Rewind covers backups. We offer 365 days of data retention, the ability to export that data for longer retention, automated backups that happen daily, the ability to recover the entire customer file or components of it, to manage multiple customer files from within the same interface, and all at a very inexpensive price. If you're interested, we'd be more than happy to chat. You can go to rewind.com/QBO efficiency. We're actually offering right now a coupon for, Melissa, remind me of this coupon. This is 3 months free. Sorry, I was looking too low. We're offering 3 months for free on QBO. Just put in QBO efficiency when you sign up, and that will automatically get applied to it. And of course, our support team is here to help you onboard and get started. Although honestly, you'll be up and running in seconds. It's very simple.
Amazing, thank you. We'll take a look at the Q&A really quickly. Had a couple questions in here. One was about the change management process. So as you go through automation, as you try to implement new solutions with your teams, any tips and tricks on kind of that change management and implementing it with your teams?
I think, when we look at people, process, technology, kind of those three aspects of how you can implement a change management plan, getting everybody on board. If your organization has multiple structure, make sure you have somebody on a leadership level that's fully on board with getting that change management implemented. That's really going to help. The process of it, have it documented, right? Have it documented where you can actually say, hey, here's how we're going to do this A to Z. We're no longer going to take pictures. We're going to use our iPhone. We're going to use our Android phone. Here's how to download the app. Here's how to do that. Like, document that process. And hopefully webinars like this will help you with that choice of technology to make sure you're choosing the right technology that's able to deliver across those. So that's how I would look at change management.
Amazing, thank you. And one other question we had here, how do you recommend our audience keep their QuickBooks data safe as they look to move to the cloud and look to start connecting with other softwares?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, start day one, because that's usually when something goes wrong, when you're trying to move everything around. Start day one, look for a solution that covers all your bases. Ideally, it's able to do, the words you're looking for is disaster recovery and granular recovery. Granular being the more important one, because often it's a small thing, and you really don't want to hit a small thing with a hammer. Full recovery for a lot of solutions means they put your entire QuickBooks instance back to the way it was on the date you choose, but that means it resets all the changes you've made in the last 5, 10, 15, 30 days.
Yeah.
That can be quite impactful. So the solution's almost worse than the problem. So look for something that does granular recovery like Rewind, where it can put that 1 or 2 pieces back and leave everything else intact, and that'll just save you so much more time.
Amazing, thank you. Okay, that was the questions we had. If there's any other questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us here. So myself for Method, Atiba from Intuit, and then I believe Melissa will be taking any questions on behalf of Scott and Rewind. So please feel free to reach out. We'll send these slides out after, so you'll have all of these email addresses and contact information as well. So that concludes our webinar today. Thank you so much for everyone who attended, for your time. Thank you for our panelists for lending their expertise. We hope that you've learned something and can apply it to your business to drive some automation within your QuickBooks environment. Excited to see what you can accomplish with it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kaitlin. Thank you, Atiba.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
Have a good day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.